What's good, y'all? It's your boy Ross back at again with another video. So, we found out last night after Monday Night Raw that The Rock was going to make an appearance on the Pat McAfee show. Now, that already had a lot of criticism just off rip because a lot of people was like, well, you couldn't show up to WrestleMania, so now you're going to show up on the Pat McAfee show. What's going on here? So, they had the Pat McAfee show today. I'm not sure if it's still going live, but I was able to catch some of the clips on Twitter. And right now, people are not happy with what The Rock explanation for why he wasn't involved in WrestleMania this year. And I'm gonna play a couple of clips from different accounts on Twitter that was clipping it up, and I'm going to just play it, so for those who haven't seen it, some of these explanations make absolute no sense. I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions on this, but we're going to get right into this so y'all can actually see what his excuse was. This is on Fadeaway Media. The Rock says, ticket sales were low for the Elimination Chamber, so he came up with this segment for Cody to sell his soul. Let's check this out.
Sales are a little slow, but beyond that, he goes, what we are finding is with Elimination Chamber, it's become the pay-per-view that's been interesting. Fans have had fun, but it's also the conduit to WrestleMania. And how do we create a Elimination Chamber that people must tune in to see? How do we create that? And he goes, right now, we don't have that. And he said, will the final boss show up? I said, well, let me give it some thought and let me get back to you. So I gave it some thought. I got back to Ari. I got back to Triple H and Nick. We had a call. And I said, I have an idea. What's most important to the final boss? The most important thing to the final boss isn't titles. It's not money. It's not fame. Been there, done that, and grateful for that. Final boss wants your soul. And what does that mean? What that means, that doesn't mean, hey, the final boss wants you to act like this, be like this, at his beck and call, and treat you like crap and make you do all these things that are unbecoming or embarrassing. That's not what the final boss wants. That's not how the final boss flies. No. What that means is whatever you could think of in your head. So Cody Rhodes, whatever dreams you have, whatever ambitions you have, even if they're dark, even if they're amazing and they're full of light, even if they're scary, whatever those are, you tell the final boss he's going to make it all happen. You wave that magic wand, he'll make it all happen. So when it comes to giving me your soul, giving the final boss your soul, that is what you want, not what the final boss wants. And so what does the final boss get out of that? I get your soul for life. That's what the final boss gets out of that. No, so now we go into Elimination Chamber with this idea of, will Cody Rhodes sell his soul to the final boss? And my thought at that time, and you and I might have even I know we talked about this, was it was a litmus test to find out, in my opinion, how will fans respond if Cody sold his soul to the final boss?
All right. Here's the thing. The idea of the ticket sales being low for Elimination Chamber being one of the reasons why he got involved. Here's the thing about that. If you wasn't trying to sell the fucking tickets for like ridiculous amount of money, I think more people would be willing to pay to go. And it would be a situation where more people have that opportunity to go, because that's been the general complaint for a lot of fans that have been going to these WWE shows lately. They are charging a large amount of money to go to these damn PLEs, and that should not be the case. If you just lower the prices, I think you can definitely get more people to come to these shows. Because the people want to, it's just y'all are charging crazy amount. And I believe that's a lot has to do with TKO and how they're trying to do things when it comes to generating a lot of revenue. And I think it's hurting the general fans, I guess you can say, I wouldn't say love for WWE, but it's hurting their pockets. And if people ain't got enough money to go to these shows, what are they supposed to do other than watch it at home? So I think you turn down, these crazy amount of prices. I think that would at least alleviate and help fill up some of these arenas are probably a little bit sooner, because the prices really started jumping up once TKO got involved. Now, here's the thing about this as well, and we're going to check out another clip. The problem I have with him just showing up to do this sell the soul thing and really, build up this WrestleMania story and build up Elimination Chamber as a whole. The problem with that is, if you do that and then just don't show up at the end, you create this false expectation from fans to see, oh, well, The Rock, he over there, he's heavily involved in this. John Cena turns. The Rock most likely is going to have something to do at WrestleMania. He's going to be somehow involved in this, and it was never your plan. Then ultimately, you get the fans excited for something that they're never going to really see. And now you create this unrealistic expectation for the main event of WrestleMania. And we don't get that, other than Travis Scott, who also was involved in this situation because of you being involved in this situation. So Travis Scott shows up. The Rock doesn't show up. People are like, what's going on? They never really mentioned him. It was like, well, The Rock or Travis Scott didn't need to be involved in this. Hell, I would have been okay if he wasn't involved in this. You either had Cody or John Cena turned heel, which I don't think anyone would have tripped off of, and then you go from there. It makes the story more cohesive. You're not have to worry about, well, what's the final boss got to say about this? They can just focus on this. I don't think many people would be complaining as much if he didn't get involved in this, only to say, well, I got involved to sell some extra tickets, but at what cost to the story as a whole? So, all right, we're going to check out another clip. This is from JD. Shout out to JD. He clipped this up. Rock speaking on the end to Rhodes versus Cena at WrestleMania. I think it's best for the final boss not to be involved in that finish. But Travis Scott was best. How he said this with a straight face is literally absurd. Let's play this clip right here. I think it's muted.
The best thing for the final boss, we've established this idea of Cody's soul.
Hold on.
I knew then, the best thing for the final boss, we've established this idea of Cody's soul. We can always come back to it. I did feel, and I made the call, I don't want to be involved in that. Step back. Let the final boss step back into the shadows. Let all the spotlight go to John. Let it go to Cody. Let's not make it about Cody's soul eventually or John's soul. No, let's let them do what they do. And I called John after Elimination Chamber, spoke to him, called Cody, and I said, I think the final boss's work is done. We've established it. We just pulled off the greatest angle in the history of professional wrestling, other than Hulk Hogan turning heel back in the 90s. I said, this is amazing. We have 6 weeks. Now, let's build. You guys go and crush it. And I'll be right there with you, and I'm always here if you need me. But I think it's best for the final boss not to be involved in that finish. You guys go. So they had 6 weeks to plan for that. So I love the finish of the match.
Bro, ain't no fucking way. You telling me that was the best route? You telling me right after you do one of the biggest angles, one of the biggest heel turns in WWE history, and you are actively involved in it. All right, guys, I'm done here. Y'all have the rest of this build. I'm sure you guys are going to knock it out the park. And this explains why John Cena didn't really mention The Rock. They barely mentioned The Rock in this story because he wasn't going to be involved. Only to have Travis Scott, who's only there because of The Rock in this angle, to be the only person to show up. And that's only because they're trying to, I guess you can say, pay off Travis Scott getting his receipt, which was just a regular a Crossroads. Nah, bro. You can't, and I'm a fan of The Rock. That doesn't make any sense. And for some of y'all that are going to try to rationalize this, I just want you to know it still doesn't make sense, no matter how much you try to rationalize The Rock's ideas. Yes, what he did, getting involved, brought more attention, made Elimination Chamber must see. I get that. But I think Elimination Chamber would have just been fine even if you didn't have him there. It would have been fine because you still could have built up a heel turn. I think a lot of people would have been expecting either John Cena or Cody Rhodes are going to go heel. One of them are going to go heel in the lead up to this build. That's the perfect scenario. A babyface versus babyface. It's going to be friendly competition until it doesn't. And they could have slow cooked someone going heel. Preferably John Cena, because it would have been a great moment. Only to say, oh yeah, man, don't worry about it. You guys got it. I don't need to be involved in it, even though you were heavily involved in it. If you didn't need to be involved in it and they were just hitting you up, you could have just thrown out some better ideas. Hell, you could have just thrown out an idea of just have John turn heel that night. It would have been a surprise. I don't know. But you involving yourself in it in a way where it would make sense for you to come back at some point, you hurt the overall ending to the story. Yes, the hype was built and everyone was excited, but you hurt the ending of the story because it all really just comes down to when people really break it down, oh, you didn't need to be involved. Simple as that. You didn't need to be involved. I mean, they could have had you be involved in some other way if they really wanted to. They could have had you been involved in some form of fashion. They was really desperate on trying to sell tickets, which they could have just honestly probably just lowered the fucking prices. But they weren't trying to do that because TKO is trying to get all the fucking money from any and everybody that loves WWE. I think it's a cop-out, bro. And honestly, some people may not believe what he's saying. I actually do believe that what he's saying here is probably true, and it still doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things. I actually believe that them coming up with this whole Cody selling your soul thing was to really get the hype for Elimination Chamber and get the road to WrestleMania, people more excited about that. And then he dipped. And then let these guys figure out the rest and then have this false sense of excitement because we don't know. We haven't heard from The Rock. All right, well, hey, we got to see WrestleMania. We got to pull up to WrestleMania. We know The Rock got to be involved. And he never was. It's baffling. If I'm The Rock, I'd be like, hey, look, leave it up to Triple H. If I know I cannot actively be a part of the ending of this story, leave it up to Triple H and John Cena and The Rock to figure out something. I'm sure that would have probably been a better receptive ending to what we got, ultimately. They basically sold some extra tickets for the Elimination Chamber only to ultimately give us a lackluster finish at WrestleMania, which is more important, in my opinion. I get it, it's a business. You got to make your money. But I think they were going to make their money regardless. And just to be honest with you, and yes, The Rock name does boost it up more. But at what cost do we end up getting this temporary boost for a PLE, which was a great one at that? But at what cost, in my opinion? Because you take The Rock out of it, I think this PLE still is a great show, one of the greatest Elimination Chambers, and you can still do the heel turn if you want to do it there and really get the hype for WrestleMania going if you want to just do that. So I don't know, man. This was nonsense in my personal opinion. Comment down below, let me know how do y'all feel about what The Rock has said in relations to, you know, him not being involved at WrestleMania and their idea of trying to generate some buzz and hype for Elimination Chamber. Let me know how y'all feel about this. Me personally, it makes things even more confusing when you really think about it, because all of this was really unnecessary just to sell some extra tickets, bro. But I appreciate all love, support. Road 2, 150K. Appreciate y'all kicking with me. See you on the next one. Peace.